Hey everybody, I am back with a quick TV show review, and that's Marvel's Ironheart. Now, initially I wasn't planning on doing a review, but given certain circumstances that kind of motivated me, okay, just sit down uh, and just watch it. I didn't even watch because I didn't, because a lot of people was making a tons of reviews and just like dogpiling on this show because they released it in two parts. The first, because it's 6 episodes. The first three released last week, and then they just released the last three today. And I figured, you know what? It's only 6 episodes. I can just binge watch it really quick. I finished it a couple of hours ago, and no joke, I had to make a freaking list because it is just like unbelievable. I made like a series of points about this that kind of caught my eye about it because uh, I am familiar with Ironheart. You know, Ironheart came out during the time of the all different Marvel stuff. There's a lot of people, taking up the mantles of other heroes, and it was like it wasn't like the best time for Marvel around that time, and like I'll get to it in a second, but clearly they adopted it what was given put out in the comics of that time and just adapted it to this. And of course, this show, it was created only like 3-4 years ago, and it's been sitting on the shelf, and they only recently put it out. Not a good look. And of course, there's shields on the internet talking about like it's review bombing, and it's and they do the same old instant faux stuff. Because guys, y'all know it's not a good sign for a show to practically, not fully, but practically just dump the entire series like they did with Echo. They just dumped it on Disney Plus. And it really wasn't promoting it too hard. I think they only it was like a week or two before this show aired when they decided to now like try to do some promos for it. It just doesn't show confidence because clearly they know this was terrible. It's not a good sign. But of course, there's certain people praising it to all hell, or others who decide to give like soft criticisms. And you know what I mean about soft criticisms? Oh well, it's not for everybody. Oh, it's just like very blasé attitude where because you don't, because let's be frank, most people do these kind of things because they want to get the free press to meet up with certain directors or go to certain events to do the interviews and stuff like that. I kind of wish they was a little bit more honest about that stuff. I have a little bit more respect for it, for that at least, because well, of course they can't say like, yeah, we're shills or whatever like that, but it's just that it's a weird game, studios play and certain people on the internet play, where it is like, yeah, well, of course, not totally honest, but just be upfront. It's like, yeah, yeah, I love this. I it's hard to say how they can be completely honest without it completely tanking their views or supporters. Just to be admit like, hey, like I want to agree with everything like that, so I can get sent out by Warner Brothers to go meet up with James Gunn or something. So of course I'm going to praise this to holy hell and not give my honest opinion. And like I think most people in general want everybody to give their overall honest opinion. I'm not saying you need to hate it or you need to completely love it, but you gotta be straight up. This show, like Acolyte, like Secret Invasion, I bet you look up, there's a bunch of those same shows that you can pick out that you probably know on top of your head who probably, maybe not fully praised it, but they doing somersaults trying to pull positives out the air instead of just be real. No, this is garbage. This is pitiful. And now I'm not saying Ironheart is at that level of Secret Invasion. It's not even at the level of Acolyte. But we need to have more people just be real, man, because this is not good. And his review bombing isn't the fact that because she's black or a black woman. It's not. Sure, there's always going to be those friends groups. I'm not naive to think there aren't any, bigoted, people out there in the world. But look at something like the first Black Panther movie. Of course, there will still be those friends groups that's going to automatically hate it. Nobody's trying to reach out to them like that. But if you put out a very good product with fleshed out characters, excellent writing, excellent cinematography, all that stuff that is very hard pressed to pick apart, then it doesn't matter what those friends groups say. But if you do put out something that isn't as good, people point it out doesn't make them one of those bigoted people. We have to start acknowledging that instead of just like using that as like a coverall or a shield for any type of criticism. Woman or not, a person of color or not, if you put out a bad product, you deserve to be called out on it. You're making art for the world to criticize. It's the name of the game. It happens. Okay? I'm pretty sure there's not a lot of people who like Picasso like that, but doesn't stop him being one of the most famous artists of all time. It's just a thing. You gotta allow, criticism. And, not get butthurt just because you don't like how they deliver the criticism. Sometimes it would be like just funny anecdotes or, kind of teasing or whatever like that. Just, or at worst, off-colored humor. But I'm kind of droning on, but I'm just saying, like, I'm just getting, like I follow a lot of reasonable-minded people that aren't shills. They just give their straight-up honesty about it. Very rational. They don't lean one way or the other. It's like, here, this is actually good, but except for this or that. Or this is actually good 100% or 90%. Or this is just straight-up trash. Straight-up trash. 80% or 100%. And fill in the details as to why. And not all the time has got nothing to do with anything with woke or DEI. Sometimes you just give out a trash product. But anyway, Ironheart. Well, of course, we first are introduced to the character back in Black Panther 2. And not many people cared for her performance because what was the actor's name? Dominic Thorne? Something Thorne. And not many people like, the character in that. uh, not necessarily. I don't think many people blaming the actress herself, but she wasn't probably given good material or a good direction. Now I'll get to my notes at the end of all this because I want to just try to cover the plot in the end and what happened in the end before I give you my list, the bullet points here. But anyway, uh, we're back with Riri, who is getting in trouble with the teacher and the dean, who are expelling her because she got busted selling, you know, helping other people's work assignments, building like certain tech or doing their homework or whatever like that. Got caught because it's against the rules to do that kind of stuff. It wasn't even just with kids at her own school at MIT. It's other different types of schools that she was doing work for because she's trying to fund her stuff, to make her little Iron Man armor. However, you think like this is this is like grant funded stuff. So not sure why she had to go the extra mile, but I guess she still need more bigger, better tools, whatever. But the teacher, oh my god, and they of course they had to bring up about like how it's already I went to bat for you given your personal circumstances, but it's already hard enough for people like us to get into spaces like this, and it's like, and they really lay on thick from time to time with that mindset, like sorry, like victimhood kind of thing, and it's kind of you're beating a dead horse with that kind of stuff, and it gets kind of annoying. No one can just be without any kind of struggle Olympics. Anyway, she decides, okay, well, for all intents and purposes, she is concerned, this is her tech. Even though, no, this was like school funded. So, for all intents and purposes, it belongs to them. But she ends up getting to the suit, flying off with it, from New York back to Chicago. But don't know why it took so freaking long, but eventually the school, shut the entire thing down, and she just ends up crash landing in Chicago. Not sure how they realize if she is in the sky at the time when she, when they cut that thing off, because it could have killed the kid. But anyway, so she's like walking home carrying the messed up parts of the suit. And then I'm surprised Cree Summer, one of the most iconic voice actresses, is a part of this. But but we meet Riri's mom, who's best friends with I was gonna call her Cree Summer. Well, her last name is Stanton, but we'll get to that in a second. But we see also another potential love interest, Xavier or something like that, and we learn that Riri's lost her stepdad and her best friend, which turns out to be Xavier's sister, in like a drive-by, accidental shooting many years ago, which clearly she hasn't like gotten over. That was kind of like a personal hump that she's, I guess, having to deal with. They don't really like use that as like a good potential motivator or something, but she is seen flying by the main villain, the Hood, uh, who's a magic based villain, if you know the Hood from the comics. But I'll get to that soon. But uh, he's running a crew, and they need somebody, an engineer, to help with the hardware stuff. So, uh, uh, they Hood had his cousin to follow and recruit Riri, who comes by, checks out the space, and she meet this motley crew of try not to use that buzzwords or whatever, but let's just say that they're very very inclusive. Let's put it that way. Really laying in on thick. Like I said, this was filmed during a different time than we are right now. So they put her through this test in the elevator, try to see if she can easily get out. She ends up passing, and then this guy, this is gonna call it Eric Andre. Like I said, it's like I'm not good with names anyway, but it's like I don't care. And honestly, I think the comic book writer who created Riri, I think got inspiration off of Rihanna, because I think people who knows Rihanna call her Riri as well. So I think that I'm pretty sure that was kind of the inspiration for Riri Williams, because when she was created, Rihanna was at the height of her popularity at the time. So part of me just want to call her Rihanna instead of Riri, because it gets tongue tied with that. So Hood ends up saying like, "Hey, we'll pay you. Like, we got 3 jobs. We're trying to get these like rich, white people. Ironically, of course, they had to be white to sign over like six figures and portion of stock or whatever like that to them." And it's like, that's not how that works, because who are they gonna send it to, especially if they know your faces? Like, it's clearly not smart writing. None of the writing is all that smart, to be frank with you. But they know that she has this suit of armor, so Riri's gonna be trying to fix it up, and she's trying to get herself her own personal AI going. So she ends up falling asleep while those little nodes are in her head, and of course she had her best friend on the brain. So even though this takes a lot more processing power to create just like a basic AI, but of course Ironheart did it in her freaking sleep, literally, and so now she has a AI program of her best friend, which of course she's freaking out, because now it's kind of like drumming up feelings that she haven't confronted. But slowly but surely, Natalie, as the best friend's name, becomes the sidekick to Riri. So utilizing the suit, they end up helping the group of criminals to break and beat up security guards, as hood gets this woman who's literally building a functional, high tech, tunnel system to help people in Chicago. That's where Riri is from. I do appreciate that from the comics. Finally they can, have other people, other superheroes that isn't from New York. Um, but the fact that it's like they have something. Look, I'll be more inclined to be on the side of these thieves if they're actually robbing like legit evil rich assholes, like somebody like on nearly the level as like the Kingpin or something, like that level of evil, type of people. But no, these are kind of like, hippie dippy type of people, or just, you know just constantly, like, more aware of the bigger picture, and trying to help the city. But like I said, the writing here is, seems like it's written by a group of 15-year-olds. And mind you, the writing in here, the writers, most of them were from the She-Hulk show, so it says a lot. So they get very flippant about like stealing from these people because, oh, they're white, so who gives a f? So white and rich, oh, they're going down. And it's like, this lady's literally building a high-tech tunnel system that's going to help the city in a major way from, without the burden of the, packed highways or whatever. They could just zip on by without congestion. And building this will bring in jobs for the common people. This is like a good thing. But they trying to make you believe like it's a bad thing. This is weird, it's a weird thing to push if you think about it deep enough. But as Riri, leaves, she gets, busted by one of the security guards. The only one that seems to have like a freaking gun, while the others just have little nightsticks that allow the other crew to just easily beat them up. That's like, it's lame. Especially, a high security functional business like this. The security guards ain't like rent cops here. They're, people with capability to shoot you. They should, realistically. And even if they didn't have guns, they're grown ass adults. And they getting beat up by early 20 somethings. That is so stupid. You can't, and don't give me the crap like, oh, like they could easily be good with like martial arts, or like some of the security guards might be out of shape. As look, yeah, the young kids, obviously would be faster, sometimes by comparison to people that might be 10 years older than them. But I'm not buying it. And they're not like Iron Fist or anything like that. These are like people that pretty much like, box at best. And they sliding around and doing this like parkour crap. And it's so dumb. I was like, snatch one of these little fuckers up and, hold them down, sit on them or something. And one of them clearly is like a drag queen. I get to that in a second. That, clearly is not a fighter. But anyway, Riri is held at gunpoint because for some reason there is technically a reason, but the AI freezes up because I guess it's operating on the same memory and knowledge that Riri has about her friend, and that, you know, helps the AI do its thing. So I guess it inherit the same trauma because Riri remembers the guns being pointed at them and back in the day. So now Natalie's, just operating on that fear, I guess. It's never really explained how deep her emotional ties work in her system. It's not saying that it can't be a thing. Like you look at something like Vision, he clearly understands emotion and, something like love or whatever. It could, theoretically you can apply this to Natalie, but they don't really put in the work to make it believable. So since Natalie's freezing up, Riri's visor is up, showing her face where the cop can easily, or the security can easily shoot her. Hood shows up, shoots him, did not kill him, but wounds him. Now all of a sudden it's like, oh my god, this is actually, he shot him. I was like, yeah, they're a group of thieves. Yeah, the odds are they will be violent. But then they started making it rain and just pat themselves on the back. Although we then have Riri trying to, fix up the suit a little bit more, but she needs certain components which she does not have, nor the financial capital to get it. But she tried to go through the former engineer of the team to see if he has any kind of tools. Turns out he's dead, thanks to the cop showing up at her apartment is to notify her and her mom that, oh, we found out that you called the victim, and do you know what happened? Blah blah blah. Like, no, it's like I was doing some kind of intern, or at least in a not internship, but like a job application, and I talked to him a little bit, but I wouldn't know. And so Eric Andre ends up getting, well, not him literally, but his character ends up getting killed off screen by obviously the Hood, because if anybody tries to leave the crew, he ends up killing, because they will end up a liability. And because he was incompetent when it comes to his particular skill set that he wanted him for. So now, like, red flags are popping up for Riri, even though she should have, like, they're not doing a good job trying to sell us on Rihanna. Let's say Rihanna, trying to sell us on Ironheart being a likable superhero. They're doing a terrible job. But she ultimately ends up finding this guy named Joe, who turns out to be the son of Obadiah Stane, who is portrayed as this, like, weak little bitch. And it's like, why do they do this all the time? Because, like, come on. Like I said, I'll get further in depth. I've written it all down, but it is just unnerving how they treat this guy. And I'm not sure, because it's the same guy who's playing Ezekiel Stane. He was also Han Solo in a Solo a spin-off movie for Star Wars. And I'm not sure who this guy pissed off, but he has not been having good luck in film projects lately. And I'm not sure if it's some weird ritual Hollywood thing he's going through right now. But man, oh man, is this like, this dude is portrayed as like a weak bitch. And it's like, one of the Iron Man comics that I've reviewed, which is up on my YouTube channel, that I did that review a couple of years back, Ezekiel Stane is a lethal threat to Tony Stark. He's the son of Obadiah Stane. And even made like an animated movie about the guy. Matter of fact, now think about it, I probably should check that out again and talk about it. But this dude is, crazy scary. So they kind of like defanged that guy severely in this show. I mean, you can actually look it up. Ezekiel Stane is like a credible threat, very brilliant. Can easily rival somebody like Tony Stark. But they don't portray that here. So after sparking up some kind of friendship, I guess, with the guy, he ends up helping her with, building up her tech for the next heist. Oh God, what else happened? This is a lot happened. It was this hippie guy with like a who has like a compound with different greenhouses and everything like that. Riri gets suspicious about the hood even further after one of the crew named Clown. She is a clown. I don't like that. She's probably like the most annoying character out of the entire series. But she snatches up the hood's hood and try it on, but the thing is like, burning hot to her. And watching the cousin get very defensive about it raises Riri's further suspicions. So she decides, okay, I need to tear like a piece of that cloth so I can properly analyze it and see what the heck is up with this thing. So, while on the heist, she has Natalie pilot the suit while she sneaks inside to follow the hood while he's talking with like the main hippie, guy, the owner. She snags a piece right after he ends up killing the guy and a bunch of security guards. And everything's starting to be on lockdown. Certain areas of the greenhouses are being like, vacuum sealed in a sense, taking away the O2 out of certain rooms. So eventually, thanks to the hood, managed to release the others who are trapped inside. The cousin ends up finding out that Riri wasn't in the suit, and he's wondering why, like, you're, here. So she knows the jig is up. They end up fighting, but they nearly pass out. Luckily, the suit came in, saved Riri, and she ends up leaving the guy to death, to suffocate to death. But she also leaves a part of a tech that she borrowed from Ezekiel to kind of, sneak in, because the compound is like certain metals sensitive. That's why she couldn't just bum rush in with her suit. There's certain items that couldn't be brought in, otherwise it would be easily detected. So thanks to her leaving that behind in the scuffle, the next day the police comes and arrests Ezekiel, and now he's mad at her for pretty much because he told her not to let this get brought back to him, because he's trying to start a brand new life without the shadow of Obadiah Stane, which so glad they actually addressed the fact that, the real story, because if you remember in Iron Man 1, Phil Coulson did his cover up that Obadiah died in like a plane crash, but Ezekiel ends up finding out the real truth, where he died fighting Iron Man. Uh, and so he has his little ashes. You know, he wasn't supposedly close with his father, as he says. He still has his ashes, and he still end up doing getting to the exact same kind of business as his father. None of it makes any sense. Uh, People's motivations out of whack sometimes. But after analyzing it, at least she tries. She decides, okay, uh, uh, this thing is kind of weird to me. So, uh, Riri, her mom, well, of course, the mom figure out about the AI thing, uh, with Natalie and stuff like that. So, I, I guess the family thing is really not interesting. Um, to be honest with you, they don't really, in my opinion, don't do a good job to really make you feel anything. At least not to me. I don't feel nothing about this entire dynamic. Nice actors. I'm not saying that they were doing like a terrible job, but it's the writing, man. But they end up going to the Stanton, hippie, you know, magic shop or whatever. And we meet up with Zelma Stanton, the daughter, who looks spot on to the comic character. I love Zelma Stanton, and it's a nice little pleasure, at least to me, as a Doctor Strange fan, because that's where she was introduced in a Doctor Strange comic, The Way of Weird, which is one of my first comic book reviews that I did for the channel. So you can check it out, and you can hear me gush about that character because she's a fun character. And I love the actress who playing this role, because like that, half the work is making sure the actor look exactly like the character. That helps with the believability and sucks you into the narrative. She is a spot on look. That is a spot on look of Zelma Stanton. Bravo. Like, points for you on that one. Points for you, show. You did that really good. So it turns out she knows a little bit of magic, because her mom used to train in Comertage before she ends up getting pregnant, and then she had to leave because she didn't want to raise a daughter in that environment. Probably a good idea, given the fact that I'm pretty sure she's fully aware that the Scarlet Witch showed up and murdered a bunch of people there. Then, like, you and your daughter will probably be one of the bodies. I'm shocked no, she didn't bring that up. I was like, yeah, I heard word that there was an attack there some time ago. That would be a nice little interwoven thing. But they looked through it and realized this thing is this cloth is not only naturally born, but it's old, very ancient, and belongs to a different dark dimension, which they assume is, at least Zelma Stanton assumes it is, the dark dimension where Dormammu lives. And it's the first time in a long time we hear the name Dormammu again, and Caecilius. He brings that up later on in a meeting up with Riri in the White Castles, which I'm assuming funded, was the nice little product placement to fund this entire show. So it's nice to bring that, roll that back, Caecilius, all that stuff. Because I actually love, the Doctor Strange movies, both of them. Some people, is not their taste. I completely understand. But for me personally, I had a ball with those movies. And I did run reviews of them. I give my overall thoughts of them and critiques and stuff. I'm not going to ignore the problems they clearly have. But overall, I still, thoroughly enjoy the Doctor Strange films. I'm curious to know how they'll deal with Charlize Theron as Clea, though. She definitely looked the part, but in terms of acting, that's still to be seen. hopefully we'll see them in Doomsday, if not Secret Wars. Anyway, uh, so without any details, the mama Stanton tells Riri she got to destroy this thing, because whoever is not, you know, technically possessing them, but they're definitely influencing them. And magic has a cost. I love they brought that back because yes, magic has a cost. It's one of the things that Marvel had to do in the comics to kind of not because back in the day, there's always been a thing where people make this either joke or observation about whenever a superhero is getting into some trouble, and everybody asking like, why don't they just call Doctor Strange so they can just fix the problem? And I think it was during the time of Way of Weird and Last Days of Magic comic that I reviewed. Uh, the writer written that component into the story, where it's kind of given magic users in the Marvel universe essentially a handicap or a kryptonite in a sense, where they just can't just do anything. Magic has a cost. No matter how small, the smaller the spell, the smaller the cost. The bigger the spell, the bigger the cost. And that is a good thing to interweave in the world of the Marvel universe, where Doctor Strange can't just solve everybody's problems because there's a price. So people tend to have to figure certain things out unless it's extremely dire that Doctor Strange has to come in. Uh, uh, but the Hood ends up finding out, through his suspicions, that Riri's the one responsible for his cousin's death. And Ezekiel gets, put in prison, blames Riri. So the Hood goes to recruit Ezekiel, who then has his crew to go and kill Riri. And of course, Ezekiel does his own personal using his tech to modify his body to be something akin to what he is in the comics, or at least briefly in the comics. I'm not sure about currently right now, because Marvel has been using Ezekiel Stain in such a long while. Probably not since the mid 2000s, 2010s at the latest. So now, after worming her way into, while fighting in the White Castle, stopping these her former thief mates, and telling them at the same time, like, you gotta talk, like, I'm not the one, like, the cousin was an accident, but you need to talk with Hood, because he's the one that killed your previous engineer. But of course, while trying to escape via her suit, she ends up getting caught by Ezekiel Stain, and he beats her up and tells her to, like, get out of Chicago. Otherwise, the Hood will find you and kill you for real. So she ends up, like, getting these random panic attacks, which they don't properly set up. It's kind of happen. Natalie ends up getting her brother, because she can't figure out a way to calm Riri down. He's the closest one she knows that can possibly do it better than her. He gets upset the fact that, as Natalie put it earlier in the show, that if you hide this for him for too long, he's going to get very pissed. So, of course, like I said, very pissed. So things get completely out of sorts with Riri personal wise. Then back with the Hood, the crew finds out that he's the one that killed their former partner. He gets upset, tells them all to piss off. He'll handle it alone. He goes, and because Ezekiel's filled with a bunch of tech, uh, Hood hacks it. So now he's pretty much puppeting Ezekiel to be his personal bodyguard while he goes to a mansion where him and his cousin used to. It's like one of the first places they tried to heist back in the day. He comes back and turns out to be the house of his father, who apparently threw him out when he was 12 because I guess he think he was kind of like a useless. Because he after losing the mom, he the dad wasn't really paying attention to him, so he got in more trouble just to get his attention. It was a whole entire toxic situation, and it didn't help the fact that the father decided to call it good riddance and toss that kid who was only 12 out on the street, where his cousin ultimately was looking after him. So he has his father sign away the deed to the house and a lot of stuff he owns, and while Riri and the others go inside the old garage of the stepdad because he was a mechanic and starts working with Zelma Stanton into apply some kind of magic base stuff interwoven into her new suit that she builds in order to fundamentally combat on an even playing field with the Hood. But in doing so, erases Natalie's AI program from the system. So she has to fight without her BFF, which obviously distraughts her. But she knows what she has to do. Oh, and by the way, the mom Zelma Stanton's mom don't explain how to destroy the Hood. How do you destroy that thing? Because conventional means don't work. That's kind of lazy not to, you rushing her out. Don't give any type of hints of what, like at least come on like a potion or something, the ingredients, so that way she can concoct it so they can fundamentally destroy this sucker once she gets the Hood off of him. But anyway, Ironheart ends up going to the hideout where she briefly fights Ezekiel and decides to nutshot him in order to cause like a system reboot or whatever, because he's in like recalling pain. So this give her plenty enough time to override the hacking in his system. But he says he's gonna let her do her thing, deal with the Hood. But what's going on between them, that's not over. Dun dun dun. This ain't gonna get no second season. I was gonna put that out immediately. But then there's a fight between Ironheart and Ezekiel. But before we get into that, we finally get the introduction of Mephisto after all these years, because you had the perfect opportunity in two different shows, Agatha All Along and definitely WandaVision. But because a lot of these writers, especially around WandaVision time, didn't bother to read the freaking comics, they missed a major opportunity, especially if they keep seeding it in, about bringing in Mephisto. They didn't think about it, and so that could have been like a major thing to put into the world of the MCU. And they got Sacha Baron Cohen, who plays Mephisto. And I love the look like a 80s rock star type of vibe I get from him. So he's the one that gave uh, the hood, the hood's hood. I know he has a name, but I'm blanking on it, so I'm just gonna call him the hood. Just be, you know, just get to the point. Because the hood made a deal with them because he want to be a king. He wants to be filthy, stinking, greasy, rich, blah, blah, blah. Uh, but the hood is obviously is like hurting him, and then also turning him a bit demonic. So she manages to get the hood off of them, off of the kid, and then walking her way down, she bumps into Mephisto, who makes essentially the deal that he could bring her best friend back fully. And it's like, okay, like what's the cost? And it's left pretty much not even ambiguous. Kind of hinted at that she made a deal to have her best friend back to life. Uh, they ain't gonna get no second season, so we ain't gonna really get no resolution to any of that stuff because it's like the writing was terrible. And there's an end credit scene which amounts to nothing, where the hood goes to the Zelma Stanton's shop to ask for some magic assistance. I guess the cure of the little cracks in his or lines or scales or whatever it is that's crawling all over him to deal with that. Man, this is not really a good show. It's like a D, if I give it like a letter rating, it's a D. But I also want to go through my notes as I was going through the show. Number one, if I made a story slash comic, a story with a comic or show, we would use her brains to track those who were responsible for the deaths of the loved ones. And Iron Man and War Machine will help her a moral dilemma. Yeah, like this show was poorly put together. Now, if you look at something like in Spider-Man Homecoming, the dynamic between Iron Man and Spider-Man was amazing. Where you pretty much have Spider-Man being taken up under Iron Man's a wing in order to try to learn how to be a proper hero, but on like the ground, or at least on his street level area, to earn his way up to the more big leagues. Now, initially, there's supposed to be an Armor Wars show with Rhodey being like the main lead. More people were more excited for that than an Ironheart show. But they put the kibosh on that for this, which ultimately ended up being shelved temporarily until they just threw it all on Disney Plus now. And people clamoring about, oh, they just, Easter and a phobe. People, a large majority of people, especially those, some people claim to be like, racist or whatever like that, are vying for or crying out for a Rhodey show, Armor Wars, based off a comic of the same name, where Rhodey is dealing with all these different people stealing Iron Man tech in order to make their own version of it and causing havoc that Rhodey has to deal with. And it'd be a perfect opportunity to introduce, because not in Black Panther 2, Riri should be introduced to the world of Iron Man. Be a part of that world. That makes better sense. That way, people can warm up to Riri, so when she does get her own thing, we're more enamored with her. We want to see more of her story. And does not make any sense that she has a magic-based villain dealing with a tech-based superhero. It makes no sense. Especially if you're introducing Ezekiel Stain, he should be the main villain. because he's an actual legit threat in the comics. He should have been the main villain that Riri, who's also a tech-based hero, can go up against. Tech against tech. Not tech against magic. At least not on the first go. And since it's technically like they kind of skipped the origin stuff like that, if I was writing in the comics, because I like the idea of Riri Williams, but the execution was poor. It's like it was supposed to fit in some type of like a hollow suit for kids just to insert themselves. Well, I think I got it written down to more that makes better sense. But if I was writing the comic of her origin story, I would be more inclined to, and it could have adapted it into the show too, have her focus on trying to track down those who murdered her stepdad and her best friend. That should have been her main drive in her own solo project. It'd be akin to she has a very Batman-like origin story. She's also a parent and a best friend. So now she has like a motivation. She built an armor because gang violence. She can have something to constantly protect her because she didn't feel protected then. And therefore, she's on the hunt to try to track down those responsible. And you can have them tie into Ezekiel or something in like a major way that work, like a crew that ultimately works for him, testing out certain weapons or what have you. And you can have Rhodey come in as like a sounding board, or like some kind of, or Pepper Potts as like a like a teacher that comes in to give off some certain wisdoms and maybe help out a little bit at the last episode. That would make better sense, especially in a world centered in the slice of life of the Iron Man community. Number 2, review felt like shoehorn in legacy characters. Like, it was around the time of the all new, all different Marvel, where Captain America got old, so Sam Wilson took up the mantle. Thor became unworthy of Mjolnir, so Jane Foster, who was suffering from cancer at the time, wielded it and became the new mighty Thor. And then, of course, thanks to Captain Marvel during the events of Civil War II, ultimately put Tony Stark into like a coma. So Riri Williams just inserted herself into the role where she didn't, where it wasn't earned, and that didn't help matters none. And that's the problem with the comics with Ironheart herself. She felt shoehorned in for some hollow sense of, got, a black woman who's just as smart as Tony Stark and doing her own thing and taking out the mantle, and it's just like, just out of the blue. It's just out of nowhere. It didn't feel earned at all. Rhodey earned that right. Hell, Pepper earned that right. Riri did not earn that right. You pushing her onto us and thinking like, oh, she's black and female, you gotta love her. Not saying that it's part of the writer's mindset, but it just gives that. I wrote down like Miles Morales and Kamala Khan looked up to their heroes before the powers. We don't see that with Riri. Yeah, because I made sure I've written that down because I didn't want to forget that major point. Kamala Khan, who came out around the same time as Riri Williams, mind you, but she was technically handled a little bit better than Riri did. And definitely Miles Morales was handled better than Riri has, because they had reverence for the people they ultimately end up taking on the mantle for. This show has Riri downplaying Tony Stark. A lot of people downplaying Tony Stark, which is disrespectful to the memory of the guy. Why would you write a line for this person to give in this TV show? It's like, Tony Stark did a lot, so I'm not going to shade him too hard or roast him too hard or whatever. Why would you roast him at all? This guy, putting aside all the technological advancements he brought into the world after the whole stint, the whole situation with terrorists in Iron Man 1, he built renewable energies and all this other stuff he contributed to the world. After making up for all the times where back in the day he didn't think about that kind of stuff, he was a world profiteer for all intents and purposes until he had his come to Jesus moment in the cave with a box of scraps. And he became a superhero, helping with the Avengers, fighting off Hydra, helping taking down the Winter Soldier and ultimately Baron Zemo. He taking out like Whiplash and like Chris Dynamo and Justin Hammer. But then the bigger thing, he brought people back from death. Half the universe got snapped away, and he contributed in bringing them back. And then sacrificed his life to kill Thanos and his armada. How dare you write this like the exact polar opposite into this show, like you wasn't privy to the past 10 years or so of the MCU, where you clearly should have seen Infinity War and Endgame. We all have. Most of the world has. We know the story. How is it that you got the nerve to sit in that writer's room and write out the fact that, he's a white billionaire that got all these resources to help fund all his projects and stuff? How dare you? How freaking dare you? That is infuriating. Iron Man is probably in my top 10 of favorite heroes. He's up there. But I know the lore so well. And then, of course, I followed the MCU for the longest time since since first Iron Man 1. So we pretty much should all know the arc. So the fact that the time when he was literally in a cave with no money and still managed to build his Mark 1 armor to bust himself out of that terrorist cell to save his own life, because nobody knew where he was and no way of getting help, so he had to figure it out himself. Did you forget especially in Iron Man 3, where he had literal just tools he got from the local tool shop in order to break into a mansion to save Rhodey and while his suit is charging up and flying over seas to get to him. But the lesson he taught Peter Parker in Homecoming: if you're nothing without the suit, then you don't deserve it. Even without the suit, he is still Iron Man. So the fact that you dare write out for these actors to actors to say about trying to put him down is disrespectful to the memory of this character and what he did. It's wild that you do that. So that's what I'm saying. Riri Williams, at least in the comics, she has, from what I remember, I only read it one time because it kind of looked interesting. Like I said, it's not a bad idea, but it's the execution. In the comics, she should have been the sidekick to Tony Stark. Just, for almost immediately. And have her learn from. I'm not sure if it's just people didn't want have a young black girl to learn from a rich white man or something like that, and they have some kind of weird vibes from it or something. I'm not sure of the line of thinking. Part of me feels like is that, but she should have been like the Robin. Dick Grayson didn't just immediately got on his own and became Nightwing after learning about Bruce Wayne's other side of life. He trained and partnered with Batman, fought a bunch of villains for years until he got into his early adulthood before he decided to go out on his own as his own superhero. He even partnered up with the Teen Titans for a good long while, learned how to work with a team. Riri Williams should have gone through those. They're trying to skip all that stuff. They did it in the comics, and they definitely did that here, where you're skipping some steps here. Riri needs to earn her stripes. Hell, Kamala Khan had earned her stripes more so than Riri Williams. And they came out around the same time. It's like she should have like spent, whether it's in the comics or in the show, she should clearly that she's made a suit of armor that is very similar to Iron Man. You should have had her be like, he is my personal hero. What would have been wrong with that? To have Riri Williams as a young girl look up to Iron Man and admire him, and being a brilliant engineer, she wanted to be like him. But then ultimately learn that she can learn the lessons from him, but then utilizes them in her own way, her own Riri way. But it's just like, oh God, it's just, why not? What would have been the harm in that? To have her be the sidekick to Tony Stark for at least a couple of years, have us, read her stories, and then ultimately get into her own story. It just, or it give her better arcs with her own unique villains to deal with. Matter of fact, that's how you should do with new characters you're trying to push out. Have them work with predominantly introduce and team up with certain well-known heroes for a good long while before eventually getting to some kind of solo stuff. And also helps to have great writers behind it. But and also make sure you prioritize, the story and characters and the message or whatever agenda is second or third on your list. So that's one of my biggest issues with the show and in the comics. And they did not, give this time to breathe and build this character properly, organically. It just feels shoehorned in too many times. Number 4. Sidekick. That was another thing. Or if not Iron Man, well, at least Iron Man in the comics should have been like her mentor, and she'd been a psychic to him. But in the show, since Iron Man's dead, Rhodey should be her mentor. It's like, you can't have Don Cheadle come in for a couple of days of shooting. Sorry, that's 3, not 4. 4, yeah. They clearly, I think most people behind the scenes at Disney probably wanted to, completely throw this entire season in the trash, like Warner Brothers did Batgirl. However, I think, unlike with Warner Brothers, there would have been a severe backlash if they dared try to pull that same stunt with Riri Williams. I think they picked the lesser of two evils and just dump it out. We might get some hate, but rather that than being accused of being racist and misogynist by tanking the main lead black girl TV show. So I can't really fault them for that, because I can definitely see, like, yeah, this what's going on with all these different videos people are making about this show, that would have been a far harsher. I mean, sorry, this is less harsh by comparison to what would have happened if they chose the other route and just dumped it all in the trash and never released it at all. People have been, being just lambasted for weeks, especially since Fantastic Four is coming up. That could easily affected that movie, just by the fallout. Now, if I'm not racist or homophobic or whatever, because you don't, this is a terrible written show. Not as bad as Secret Invasion or Acolyte. I think that was my personal litmus test. Is it as bad as Secret Wars and Acolyte? No. It's still fairly watchable. I couldn't even get through. I couldn't finish Secret Invasion. It was so terrible. Nor Acolyte. It's like I could not do it. My brain just won't power through it. It was so bad. This, I can at least get through it. Yeah, the hood making rich people sign contracts. I mentioned that earlier. It's like that's not how any. I turned to that old commercial. You look it up. That old white lady is like, that's not how this works. That's not how any of this works. Like I immediately go into that, and it's like I haven't thought about that commercial in years. But it's just when I heard that and him trying to make these people sign, it should have been like contracts to collect their souls for Mephisto. That makes better sense. And then he reaps the rewards for them signing off their soul. It makes better sense. Number 7, don't know why Riri's written like a thief. You're supposed to be rooting for this character. You want her to be like a true blue hero, but you have her doing things that is akin to a villain. It's a weird direction. Number 8, downplaying Tony Stark. Skills, already mentioned that verbatim. Number 9, yeah, why is Mephisto introduced in Ironheart? It's like, you got 2 shows where it's very magic based, plus a movie with Doctor Strange 2. Any one of those 3, you had a perfect timing to put in Mephisto, which makes sense. Or better yet, how about making a fucking Ghost Rider movie where we all were first well known or introduced to Mephisto was in a Ghost Rider comic. So it's like, how about we get in at the very least Robbie Reyes, because the poor actor who played him in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. has been hanging on doing like oddball, movies here and there while waiting on that call from Kevin Feige to bring him in, because they, want to work in Ghost Rider at a certain point, which I think most people are expecting Nick Cage to come back for one time as Johnny Blaze for Secret Wars. It would also be a good time to get in Robbie Reyes, because that actor, Gabriel Luna, I think his name. No, that's Andor guy. Blanking on the poor man's name, but he was a great Robbie Reyes. And it's like he's just hanging on, waiting for that call. Don't bring, just like with Mahershala Ali. Don't get these actors to sign if you're not fully committed and ready to get the ball rolling with their projects they signed up for. That is like disrespectful and unfair to them. Number 10. Staying shows. Yeah, I mentioned that he should have been like the main villain. Don't know why you have like a magic based villain for a tech based hero. It makes no sense. He is like a good villain on his own right. All right, there are some good points. I'm gonna leave it. I'm just gonna address it as it comes. I have like at least 36 points here that I've written down. Out of all the 36, there's only 4 good things I can say about this entire show. It's just wild to me. It's like just four. Like one of them did a good job with the Chicago backdrop and the brick oven pizza. Yeah, they really showcased like Harold's Chicken. I'm from Chicago. It was like they did a good job of showcasing the neighborhoods that a lot of which I've recognized. The brick oven pizzas, like very like the standard look to it. Uh, like I said, I could have done a better job with the lingo because we got our own distinct style of speaking. Uh, they don't know how to write black people, but I get that in a second. But good job with the whole Chicago, backdrop. They did a good job with that one. Uh, Number 12, Riri isn't treated like a kid despite being smart. Since it's not written in the comics organically, it doesn't translate into the show. Yeah, the actress is like in her mid-20s, but they like to treat her like she's like, because she was like a teenager when she got to MIT because she was so smart and everything like that, like a free ride and all the stuff to this college. But they don't treat her like she's like a kid. It's like she acts like a 20 something at the latest. And it's like, I don't know. It's like, even when she was introduced in Black Panther 2, she didn't come across like a just young whippersnapper that's in over her head. Like, you expect her to act something akin to how Peter Parker was in Homecoming or in Civil War. He might be, they like, pretty smart in their own right, but at the end of the day, they're still kids. They kind of ignore all that, trying to give her some sense of maturity or what have you. But it's like you kind of missed the ball on that. I'm not sure if they're trying to rush her age or something. I don't know. Number 13 gets expelled doing people's work. Yeah, I mentioned what that is. It's like they do not do this character justice by trying to have her do things that's very villainous while trying to simultaneously make us believe she's supposed to be this hero we're rooting for. It's not working. You give us mixed messages, or you're contradicting yourself, I should say. And number 14 shouldn't have been introduced in Black Panther 2. Yeah. 15. Weird, the Hood's crew took down security. Yeah, I mentioned that. This is weird. Number 16. Why doesn't Riri keep working with Wakanda so she doesn't have to worry about money? Yeah, you have a direct line, and they mention it. You got a direct line to Riri Williams. Even before you got tangled up with the Hood and his crew, if you got expelled, even though you was there for 4 years, you should be ready to like graduate. But she didn't want to work in a cubicle and with people she doesn't like or whatever. You created an advanced AI. You could have sold it to Google or something. You don't really have to, I know you're supposed to be some kind of socially awkward or whatever like that. It doesn't mean you have to necessarily work with people. Given your knowledge and your skills, you don't even really have to associate with people. You don't want to unless you actually have to. Whatever. You just seem like you're making excuses. You're failing to make this kid charming. Yeah, she can be brilliant all day long, but you got to have some kind of thing for us to glom onto that we actually like about this character to kind of balance it out. She come across like a smarmy asshole. Tony was that too, but he has like charisma to back it up. There's no charisma with this girl. 17, constantly being told how great she is. And it's like they do that verbatim. You just like really pay attention. They gotta constantly shower her with like all these praise. That they didn't have to do that with Bruce. Hell, not even Shuri or Tony. They let their brilliance, they acted out their brilliance. They, show not tell. It's just like, why is that so hard? And it's like, oh my God, it's like really want to drove it in. Like she's strong and independent. She's strong and independent. smart. This is really want to shove our faces into it, like with you want to be seen, like you don't want to be stand out. You want to like, oh god, the dialogue in here is just like clearly was written in a different time period, very time capsule ass languages. Number 18, the Slug character, a drag queen on the show, but in the comics, you look it up, it's actually a fat white guy. Don't know, could have at the very least hired that, the fat kid in Acolyte, as a role of Slug. At least get at least close to accurate. But for some reason, they just had to bring this particular actor into this role. I mean, I know why. I think most people know why, but I'm not going to say here because I think we kind of beat that, DI woke rhetoric to the ground at this point. It's getting to the point it's becoming meaningless. Number 19, no black person greets a black family like, "Hey, black people." No, my black friends, I asked too, just like, has you or anybody ever walked into a room where you go to like a cookout or whatever gathering and you go, "Hey, black people"? Nobody has done that. It's like a committee of mostly white people did this. And you're supposed to be inclusive behind the scenes, and clearly you're not speaking to any black person to write out dialogue for black people. And Ryan Coogler should know better than this too, unless he just like came in as like the face and not really, and just doing what the community is telling him to, and just not have any kind of say so. I doubt it, given the fact that he's established some level of capital, but maybe actually no. I think because while this was shelved, he was still like going through Sinners, so it won't be until after Sinners where his name really starts like really be dominant, where because Sinners and Black Panther, they gave him the cachet at this point to say F you to the studios, similar to like James Cameron or Christopher Nolan. He has that F you capital at this point. But prior to Sinners, he hasn't yet. But I think you saw the trailer, as I did a reaction to the trailer, they really shove his name with big bold letters onto the screen to like, hey, we got Ryan Coogler, so of course you love him, right? Gotta love this. It's all like a scam. Because if it was really, really Ryan Coogler, we would have dialogue similar to something like we saw from Black Panther or in Sinners. It is like, it's embarrassing how corny this is. No black person going some room full of black people like, "Hey, black people." It's like, what the hell is this? Oh, another thing. Free thinkers. Another line. This kind of makes no sense. Who just unironically used the words free thinkers in a sentence. Number 20. Working for an obvious bad guy for money. The show is doing a terrible job selling her as a hero. Yeah, that is crazy. 21. If Riri can make an advanced AI, why doesn't she try to profit from that? Especially after the mom, because you can use that as like a grieving mechanism to help, like, talk her feelings out and say what you always wanted to say to her friend that you didn't get a chance to say after losing her. And then why don't you make an AI off the stepfather for something for a mom? But then again, there could have been some kind of dialogue about how unhealthy it might be, because you can't, you gotta learn to eventually let this kind of let the person go. You can always remember them, but you can't get over that grieving process, because I think part of the grieving process is to let that person go. And having an AI of that person probably doesn't help with the process. They could have had some type of character development with something like that. That's my first thought. Uh, yeah, and that's what I have for number 22, basically. Number 23. Uh, yeah, it takes a lot of processing powers to make a normal AI. Tony and Bruce had to work together just to make Ultron. But Riri literally just sleeps and then boom, she has like an advanced AI because she's that freaking good. God, at least I'm not discounting the fact that she couldn't do it. Like I'm willing to buy that she could do it. The problem I have is the steps it took to get to that point. It seemed too easy. They're making things too easy for female leads in a lot of these projects, and that's why people eye roll so hard when they hear about like when you hear like female leads, they tend to have like a negative knee jerk reaction. Another girl boss, and this is why things get too easy when you come for female leads in a lot of these projects. We don't want to see that because we have a visceral reaction to it. It's the race, Palpatine situation all over again. It's the live action Mulan all over again. It's like, we don't want these perfect little creatures that you can't like put them through the ringer without having to remind the audience how strong they are or how smart they are. Just let them act it out. That's their job. Number 24, blood siblings are supposed to be blood brothers in the comics, but they obviously changed that. Number 25, rich people like the woman in the first heist is treated like she's some slumlord, but she's creating working jobs. I mentioned that. It's like it's weird how you're trying to make these rich people seem so dastardly, but they're doing something that's benefiting a lot of people. It's like weird how you try to make them villains and they're clearly not. It wasn't so hard to write in some kind of pseudo kingpin type of characters for Chicago for these heist people to steal from. That way we will root for them stealing from them legitimately because they acted similar to something like Kingpin. It wouldn't be that hard. That's why it's like, we root for Daredevil when he takes down his organization because he deserves it. Number 26, another good point that I really like. I actually like the performance of the actress playing Natalie. Yeah, it's funny because the actress who plays Natalie is giving off like charming performances, something we needed from the main character that we're not getting it from. Why is it that this, female co-lead is a lot more fun and engaging, and I actually got some chuckles out of, and and her performance, it looks so like when she's, happy or excited, I smile. When she's, legitimately upset, I, feel it. She's like a credible actress. She's really good. But then, like, I got a good laugh, or at least not a laugh, but it's more like a smirk, like, that's kind of cute. Whereas she's like just doing a little, dance in front of the Ironheart suit and stuff like that, while Riri is hooking up like security cameras and stuff like that. It's just like, man, she's like a charming character. And I think she's like, if I had like she's honestly the only character I really like out of this entire show, personally. Number 27, Ezekiel is such a wimp. It's not even funny. Yeah, when he first introduced, he's like, like stumbling his words, all nervous in front of this little old white lady with a dog, and it's like, please, can you not let your dog pee on my yard, do his business on my yard, and he cries in a car randomly. Why they write white people like so one note? It's like, they either white straight guys, either cucks, gay, or evil and or racist. is that most of these things, especially in Disney, is that three modes for white straight guys. But if he's gay, he's okay because he's not a threat or something. But it's like, oh, you were just making him racist. He's easy to hate at that point. No, this is right a normal white guy that is competent. He's good. He can help the main character while it being like like a whole thing about it. Godly. Like this kid had no backbone. A stark contrast, no pun intended, from the character from the comics, who is very competent, very confident, and it is like a serious threat. This dude is no joke in the comics, and you get this very wimpy demeanor. That is weird. And this is supposed to be the son of Obadiah Stane. Number 28. Oh, another line of dialogue is so cringe. Waiting to be seen and acknowledged. Why are people so obsessed with want to be seen and acknowledged? It's like this so the ego on a person. Number 29. Marvel really thought putting Ryan Coogler's name. Yeah, I mentioned this. And then getting RDJ to like give his little video stamp of approval to the actress playing Riri Williams, because they know that there was like backlash. And it's not like it was not unfair backlash, not towards her specifically. It's just like the entire project stinks to high heaven. We all saw the tea leaves before it was coming out, and it didn't help the fact that you wasn't Disney is your doggone fault because you didn't properly promote it the way it should. And you're dumping it all practically all at once, which is not a good sign because you didn't clearly have confidence in the material to release it weekly. So people take their use pattern recognition and just make their assertions. Yeah, this is probably not gonna turn out so well. Hey, sometimes people can be pleasantly surprised if you actually had some good writing to back up your show. Then it's irrelevant about who's the main lead. It's irrelevant about who's the side characters are, whatever. But also, there's another good point I could give, that they had the Ironheart suit looks pretty good. I was worried about the whole budget and everything like that. Usually when they deal with something with CG or whatever like that, they usually relegate it to the first episode, middle episode, and then the last episode to save on budget. But we get a good amount of use out of the Ironheart suit. I give it that. So that's technically 5 good points. Number 30, should have probably set up the panic attacks earlier to set up growth for Riri to overcome trauma. Yeah, this is like this. Third episode they started to introduce like her having panic attacks. Why not have that at the jump at some point in the first episode? It's kind of like Tony Stark had panic attacks too, but it was probably set up earlier in the movie, not halfway through it. Because you want to establish like a relatability to this character and concern and all this other stuff that she has to overcome and that we root for. Set it up early. Number 31, Clown's so annoying. Yeah, if Natalie's my favorite character, Clown's probably the most annoying one. Because he's going over the top with her. The actor's going over the top with her performance. I kind of wish the director told her to kind of dial it back a bit, because he seems like overdoing it. Very hammy. And hammy acting sometimes gets on my nerves. Number 32, showing they brought in Zelma Stanton in this show. Yeah, Zelma Stanton, like I said earlier, I love that freaking character in the comics. And the first time they introduce her is not in a Doctor Strange project, but in an Ironheart show. It's like, what? Oh, such a At least we got her, but God, they gotta introduce her into a crap. I think she's probably like my second favorite character out of Ironheart. Natalie being one, and Zelma San be the second one. Number 33. Why didn't Zelma use her magic to teleport her and Riri to safety from the White Castle? Yeah, when they get ambushed by the Goon Squad, we clearly saw in earlier scene that Zelma can easily teleport at the most a group of 4 people to a pocket dimension office of hers. So why couldn't she just warp her and Riri to safety? That was weird. You shouldn't have established she can do that if you wasn't gonna probably capitalize off that benefit, or at the very least have one of them knock out the girl so that way or she can't easily rely on that or something. Then it makes sense that she have to fight her way out. Okay, another good point. Sacha Baron Cohen playing Mephisto. I was kind of worried because like, is he gonna do like a whole Borat thing with this character? But no, he's actually pretty doggone good as Mephisto. I was like, oh, okay. It's one of those things where you can be pleasantly surprised. He's actually pretty good. Yeah, so he's probably my third favorite, performance out of this entire show. Okay, so Shane got to be introduced into like a tech-based type of hero thing. Number 35, another favorite thing. Nice callback to the first Doctor Strange movie. So like Zelma kind of bringing up, because they haven't clearly forgotten about that, Caecilius and Dormammu. And I love the line from Mephisto about like, Dormammu isn't fit to lick my butt, blah, blah, blah. And it's like, yeah, of course he's got bravado. He's like that in the comics too. But it's like, those two are both pretty doggone powerful. So you can say maybe Mephisto might have a slight edge over Dormammu, but I don't know. It's hard to read that. And finally, number 36, Riri's motivation change. They flip flop all over the place. They don't stick to one motivation, or at least two. It's like one moment like, did your dad like Iron Man, or are you trying to be better than Tony, or you want to be iconic? Which one is it? Pick a lane. What is this? But that's pretty much my overall thoughts on the show. As my bullet points, all the things that I overall I dislike, but there's like at least 5 things I actually did legit like from the show. Unfortunately, that still isn't good enough. If, like I said, if I give it any kind of letter rank, it'll be a D. It'll be a solid D. It is terrible. It's not going to get a second season. Do not expect a second season. Hell, people be lucky enough to see this character show up in other projects down the line, but it's not going to be her own thing. Never. It's that bad. But anyway, leave a comment below. Let me know what you guys think of Ironheart. I know you guys probably had a lot to say, but man, it's not good. But anyway, I'll see you guys tomorrow. As we're going through some another movie review before the weekend, where I'll be taking a break from streaming. But in any case, I will see you guys. Well, probably squeeze in some time. I might squeeze in a little time with some Marvel Rivals and get started on some Moon Knight. But anyway, I'll see you guys later. Take care. Peace.